Welcome back to the Purpose Over Profits podcast. I'm Jim Floyd, owner of Ascent Total Performance in Columbia, South Carolina.
And I'm Jeremy Powers, owner of Powers Insurance Experts, the guy who's about to put his phone on silent.
Yeah, we got to make sure we do that.
Right.
So today, I think I'm really excited about it because this stuff I love. We're starting basically a podcast series about all things leadership related. And so we're going to dive into a bunch of different topics over the course of the next multiple episodes and really kind of go into all the different things that we've experienced over time with running our respective businesses. And then also just a lot of principles that we've learned along the way.
That's it. It's always so fun to see how excited Jim is when we're talking about something. And this is cool too. It's like something we haven't done before, I guess, if you could say season 2, or after we talk about, where we're going and what we've done throughout the year, we're going to start this series where we're really going to dive in and really understand some things. So no better place to start and other than what kind of leader are you?
Yeah. Yes, I think that's a pretty important thing. So especially when we start out, we might be just a single person business. Of course, we have to lead ourselves, but then it really compounds more whenever we start bringing in staff members.
That's right. Especially if you have multiple personalities like me, then you've got then you've got to start dialing into, hey, I've got to only show them one.
You got so much experience with that.
That's right.
So really, like, how do we want to lead people when we're bringing them into our business? And there's multiple ways to do that. And I think knowing yourself is really the first part of that, of really kind of identifying. So what are the characteristics and what are you naturally predisposed to being able to do? But then also, we want to kind of have that second part of it. So we've got that, what type of leader are you? And then the second part of that is, what type of leader should you be for it too? There's no one right answer with that. But we want to dive into that a little bit.
That's right. I mean, I think it's a seasonal thing. You have to be able to be on, and you want to, number one, I think, be an authentic leader.
Yes.
Like that has to be A, and then there's like an A1, A2, A3. You know what I mean? But like that being that authentic leader is so important because there are going to be hard times.
Yep.
You're going to be great times. You're going to be in mediocre times. There's going to be hard times. And if you aren't authentic and all of a sudden you're the first one, like running out of the fire, building on fire, then your team's going to have a really hard time trusting you moving forward. And so I think it's okay to not be the leader you want to be today, but you have to understand that you have to be authentic. Everyone gets somewhere by eating the elephant one bite at a time. And that's totally okay as long as you're going forward every step of the way.
Yeah. So I want to lean into that, dive into that concept of authenticity a little bit more, because, so if we look at just the definition of it, it's like living what you're preaching, right? And we don't want any kind of a disconnect between what we're saying and what we're actually doing. And so, and if we do have that, people see right through it.
Yep.
You're not going to be respected as a leader. You're not going to have these people that are just ready to run through a wall for you too. And I think a lot of that comes down to belief in what you're doing too. And so you have to look within yourself. It's like, do you absolutely believe in what you're doing and the way that you're approaching things? And are you passionate about those kind of things? And I think that's one of the big steps with having the authenticity with, whether it's insurance business or physical therapy business, is being authentic to who you are and what your beliefs are related to those things.
That's it. And no one's going to be perfect. I will go ahead and share a bit of vulnerability where I tell myself I'm a hypocrite all the time. And that is when it comes to notes and when it comes to the details. And so for me, ultimately I say to my team, like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And we've got to be so detail-oriented and we've got to take every note. And then I'm the one that they're like, hey, there's not notes on Bob. And I'm like, oh goodness. And so I am very quick to apologize. But what I'm also working on right now is I just implemented a new program that's going to allow us to create automation. And create automation to the point where it's not like someone, like right now when we get a email from someone, it automatically comes to my email from so many different situations because the program or the carrier will only allow you to choose one email. And so what I've done is I've now implemented a new CRM that's going to allow Outlook to talk both ways so that the email directly goes into the customer's profile. So other than them having to ask me, hey, Jeremy, did you save it or did you do this? I'm literally trying to take away any ability for it not to happen automatically. And now instead of 10 things I have to be sure about, I can limit that to the 3 things that automation can't control.
Yeah.
And so I'd say, Jeremy, you just have to do these 3 things. And so I think that being vulnerable and saying, hey, I struggle too, like authentic leader doesn't mean you won't ever fail.
Absolutely.
You know, but it's all about seeing it and doing something about it.
Yeah, and so you're owning it, and so you own that maybe that's not my strength, but this is what the expectation is, and I'm going to be authentic in that. Of if I'm not going to be perfect at it as well. And I think that's what really resonates. So like one of our core values in our company is to be about it. And so we think about authenticity with that is like, we're never going to ask a patient to do something that we can't do ourselves. I'm never going to ask any of my staff members to do anything that I'm not capable of doing or that I'm not currently doing.
Yeah.
And so we always have to make sure that we be about it and approach things with authenticity with everything that we do, everything that we ask of our staff.
Yeah. And there's several different types of leadership. When I was going through different ones, I jotted down like the ones that most appealed to me. And there's ones that I'm not, that I like certain things about, but I think that it's the charismatic leader, the servant leader, as well as the leader that's like transformational, or, then there's like the transactional leader or the situational leader. There's all these different types, but it's so funny how you can pull out things that are your strengths, but then you can also look at other ones. You're like, man, I really wish I had that quality. And I think that as you go down the list, none of these is wrong. Even the democratic type leader or the autocratic type leader, you have so many different styles. And there's certain situations where you maybe need to pull that out, or grow in each of those areas, but nothing's wrong with any one of them. But it's so fun to look at it and say, wow, where do I kind of fit in?
Yeah, and you really you can identify yourself the traits of those different things and what you might lean towards, and then that's a very, very powerful thing in determining what your tendencies are in a certain situation, or how do you address your staff in general and all that kind of stuff. So you want to run through each one of those and just kind of talk a little bit about
So the autocratic leadership, like I pulled up like some scenarios and things. It's like a military commander leading a platoon in a combat mission. And some pros are quick decision making. You've got that clear chain of command, and that is in so many situations, especially in like heightened emotions of, like you said, a battlefield, which even your day-to-day operations there can be situational. You don't want just this inspirational leader who's like, we got this, whatever. You actually need someone to tell you, hey, ABC.
Yeah. And you also, so like for a democratic leader or something like that, where, when there's an emergency situation, you're not going to gather everybody and get everybody's opinion. You just need somebody that's going to take charge and say, we're doing this. So our building catches on fire. We're not going to have a meeting about how do we exit. We're just, you do this, that kind of thing.
I feel like that's from The Office. I feel like that's like a scene from The Office.
Probably,
It's like the building's on fire. Let's all meet in the conference room.
Use the surge of fear and adrenaline to sharpen your decision making. Okay, I am not dying here. Come on.
So then you've got, like a transformational leader, which is, a CEO inspiring and motivating employees during a company-wide restructuring process. Once again, it's vital, but there's situations where that type of leadership at certain levels, it's just not necessary. Like you can't win in every aspect. And so I think as we look through these, this is the reason that you have leadership teams. Yeah. And if you're all transactional leaders, or if you're all, everyone needs to be an authentic leader, but then your secondary trait, if you're all the same, man, it's going to be there's seats on the canoe or the boat or the rocket ship for a reason, and everyone has a job. So I think that it's really important. We talk about DISC assessments, all these different things. It's just really important to know, where are people's strengths, and are you allowing them to thrive in their strength?
Yep. Yeah, and I think about like the transformational leader part. That can be something that can help shepherd a company through change and all that stuff. But those strengths aren't going to be the strengths for when something's stable as well. And so, and I like what you said too about looking at all those different types of, want to kind of take different things from all that. And I would argue that might be the best kind of leadership, is having aspects of each one of those to be able to be adaptable to those situations, but knowing how to handle those situations.
Absolutely. I think that is a very important thing to just really think about and to understand as you are just looking and overall looking at the structure of your business, the people on your leadership team, and yourself inwardly, like, hey, just because I'm not this it's not bad. These are different styles of leadership. There's not ranked from 1 to 10 what's the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's one thing I love it. But for me, one of my favorite is just the servant leadership.
Yep.
You know, and so a scenario of this is it's like a principal at a school. And they're helping teachers to excel in each. There's a Spanish teacher, an art teacher, a second grade teacher, and then a 4th grade honors class teacher. You've got to be able to lead and shepherd and help each of them differently.
Yeah.
But it's your willingness to know that you're at the top.
Yeah.
But you're hanging out with the janitor, you're hanging out with the custodial staff, and you're treating them with absolute respect, because if they weren't there, it'd be dirty. It'd be gross.
Yeah.
If that second grade teacher didn't know how to handle kids that are going through some big life changes, it would be extremely tough. So it's the ability to put yourself as in the least of thee.
Yeah. And you can see that you exude that with your personality in general, and then how you run your business too. And I think it's a very important thing. And so I talk about in our business a lot. My number one role now is to help all of our staff succeed, and to be that support system and be able to put them in the positions to where they're going to be able to thrive with whatever there is. And then, so with that servant leadership, I think that creates just such a great culture within a company, a lot of buy-in and really belief in where the company's going if everyone approaches it in that manner.
That's right. And I think there are some cons, like the struggle in that too, is that it's a fine line, because sometimes you have to get down to business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things that, like, you might find yourself like, I was really doing well at that, and I feel like everyone's walking all over me. And it's like, man, it's almost incredible how you have to somehow be great at a lot of things that role.
It's an absolute skill being in that position. And the biggest thing that I've found with that is, of course, we want to help and we want everybody to thrive too, but it still comes down to, you have the expectation set, you're going to lead through that, you're going to model how you're going through things and all that stuff, but it's still up to the staff member to do what they're supposed to be doing,
to
do their job. And so then you have to make sure that they're being held accountable for things as well, because you can go and help and do all that stuff, but the last thing you want to do is create dependency on you as the leader, as the CEO of your company, of, okay, well, Jim's going to take care of this, so this is something I don't need to do as much.
Yeah.
Whereas more of, because then that's that fine line between helping enough to guide, to create independence, versus helping so much that then everything's still dependent on you to do.
That's right.
Yes.
And that's the conversation I've had in in monthly and weekly mastermind groups with I'm in a weekly with startup agencies that are considered scratch. I was very blessed to go on their podcast, and it was like a brotherhood, because they understand what we're going through from people that have just started. And then I'm in a mastermind with agents who are maybe 10, 20 million, and just hearing everyone talk, where the similarities lie, and things like that, and seeing the different styles of leadership or the different areas of expertise. This is something you have to master.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you're always going to be growing, but if you don't stress the importance of your growth as a leader, instantly one day you're going to wake up and you've gone from a one-man show to you've got 6 people. Trust me, I'm living it. And all of a sudden, if you didn't invest that time when you thought, I just have to lead myself, it's not important, all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, whoa, it's not as easy to turn a canoe as it is. It's easier to turn a canoe than the Titanic.
Yeah.
And when you've got an organization that's grown, all of a sudden you're like, wow, like I don't even have my license, captain's license, and I'm sitting here trying to navigate a ship.
Well, yeah. So all of a sudden you've got 6 people that you are responsible for their livelihood and for for them to be able to support their family and all that kind of stuff. That is a lot of pressure with it. And the good leaders are going to rise to that and like having that responsibility and want to do whatever they can to be able to support people and help them thrive in those roles.
Yeah.
But that's not everybody. It's not an easy thing to do.
That's right. And I think that's vital. And the biggest one for me, and this is why I wanted to say this one until last, as far as the types of leadership go, because this is my biggest weakness, and one that I think that you actually more strive in than I do. And this one is called a situational leader.
Yeah.
And this one, like it's team members being able to adapt to the leadership styles of the people on their, of people or individuals on their teams, and also being able to adapt to their skill levels. So for me, a struggle is I feel like if I can do this, anyone can.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's so easy to me, but so then my wife joins the business and I have to really check myself because I'm like, what do you mean you don't understand? And I forget so quickly that I have years, 10, 15 years of experience. And so I'm all of a sudden finding myself in a position where I'm expecting more out of people than I really should.
Sure.
And it's so hard for me to dial that back. And so that is an area where I absolutely have to work on.
Yeah. And so thank you for thinking that I would be better at that role. And, I do view myself as being pretty good at those kind of things and being able to tweak how I want to say things according to my audience. And because, ultimately I want to be able to accomplish what we need to accomplish with it, but I also need to approach that in a lot of different ways, depending on which staff member I'm talking to and what role they're in. And it is absolutely a skill that you need to have because not everybody's going to be the same. You don't hire a bunch of robots. You're going to have different personalities. You're going to have different skill sets and all that kind of stuff. So you need to be adaptable as that leader of, how do I approach whatever situation it is to get the most out of this staff member and to make them feel supported through that to where they're going to be the best that they can be? And there's absolutely not a cookie cutter approach for that. It's going to be different for every single person that you have.
That's right. Where would you say you feel right now before we end this? Where would you feel like is your strongest area, and where do you feel like is the one that you're currently working on?
I was thinking about that before this episode. And actually, I think about that a lot because we're in such a season of growth and my responsibilities evolving almost daily. And I think the things that I really excel at are being the thing that's like vision casting and talking about this is what we're going to do and this is where we're going to go and getting everybody fired up about different things. And because I get excited and I wholeheartedly believe in where we're going and I'm passionate about that stuff. And I love being able to convey that and getting up on those soapboxes about different things. And so I feel like I'm strong in that. And also I feel like I'm strong in being able to recognize like those situational things of being able to frame a conversation in a way that's going to be productive, and instead of just going to somebody and saying like, I just need to do better, and you're not cutting it right now. Let's make it a productive thing, and always being able to frame those things. I think those are my strengths. I think my weaknesses with that are, I still want to please people, and I need to have a lot of that tempered with, all right, we still got to get crap done.
That's right.
We still got to do this. And I have to make sure that I really focus on not allowing my desire to just have everybody be awesome and love what they do and create that, and not having me worry about, okay, well, I need to have a hard conversation with someone. And so I'm going to kind of approach it with just kind of being really super, super nice, but not really getting the point across.
Makes sense.
Versus where it's like, and what I realized though, as I've recognized that and I've done that more, is it's appreciated.
Yeah.
And so the things you worry about, like you ramp up in your mind of, oh man, this is going to be a tough conversation. Almost every single time I have done one of those, and I'm just like, I just got to get it done and do it. It ends up being such a big net positive for things too. And so but that's continuous skill.
Yeah. Well, what I see whenever you were saying that is I see that meme where it's like the wife and she's looking over at the husband laying in bed and she's like, I wonder what he's thinking about. And you're over here like, what kind of leader am I developing into today? But before we wrap this up, I wanted to just list these off. We'd love to know your thoughts. Like where are your strengths as a leader? I'd love to know, our listening audience, where you feel yourself. We got the autocratic, the democratic, we've got the transactional, we've got the servant leader, the charismatic leader, the situational, and then overall we've got the authentic leader. And so I hope and pray that you're able to find that authentic you, because there's no one else that was designed to lead what you're leading other than the authentic you. And so we'd love to know where your strengths are, where you're looking to grow in, and then also last but not least, we're up for a little award. So, Jim, you want to tell people about what we have going on?
Yeah, so we are nominated for Best Local Podcast.
That's right.
In the Columbia Free Times magazine. So we would very much appreciate your vote if you're a fan of what we're saying, even if you're just a fan of Jeremy's. definitely, please go and give us a vote. That just will help us reach so many more people.
That's right.
That's ultimately the mission.
And I'm going to go ahead and say that Daniel Yilmaz is going to have that in the show notes, who's also up for best. He's up for best of 2 different categories right now. Best, I don't know if it's best videographer, best overall social media, whatever he's up for. I think it's maybe 1 or 2 different things. I'm going to go ahead and tell him he can put that in the show notes as well, because he deserves it. He comes here and deals with us every week, but that'll be in the show notes. And we would be so thankful if you guys would help us in our first year as a podcast. Well, how honored are we that you guys would nominate us for that? So as always, we hope you have a wonderful week. We aim to make your leadership experience better and to help you grow with the ultimate belief that purpose is going to outweigh profits every time.
Absolutely.